Welcome to the next episode of Insert Buzzword. Delighted to be here with my good friend, Jeremy. So, Jeremy, kick us off. How's your week been?
Oh, wow, I'm going first. Throw the ball right over. I'll catch it. It's been intense. It has been intense. Busy. Big things going on as per. I guess, trying to manage those stress levels and the cortisol running through my system. I'm aware of what's going on and trying to hold on the rocket ship as it reaches orbit, right? But no, it's been a grand old week, and it's only Wednesday. What about you, Tristan?
Yeah. Same, basically. It has been a fast start to the year. I was grateful and glad to have pretty much the first week of January off work, come back in, motivated, some goals, a lot of personal goals. I've started doing videos on LinkedIn, which was something I was apprehensive about, but kind of through guidance of others, and you in particular, kind of reassured and knew ultimately, I wasn't worried really, but you've got that kind of either fear of failure or that vulnerability that kind of makes you apprehensive. So I was glad to do that. It's going well. I've got a goal to do one a week this year, so that's needs consistency and a hard one to do, but I'm motivated. This year has been very good so far, and I think there will naturally be difficult things, but I think this year mindset is better than it's ever been, and lots of things. Taking magnesium, taking some unwind nootropics are helping me sleep from Pure Sports. Shout out to Pure Sports. And also some lion's mane mushrooms from Marvel's Mythology.
They're
They're helping me get
that mental clarity and focus. Big news since we last recorded a podcast. You're part of the business now.
Yes, I'm in, helping and supporting. Yeah. And we're doing exciting things. So what I haven't told you, Jeremy, we'll do it live on the podcast, is I secured our stand at the Natural and Organic Foods Expo in London in April. So
Oh goodness.
We're H51 for anyone out there. Look at the floor plan. We're there.
That was the nice spot as well.
So yeah, that's the premium one. It's cost us money, but we're hopeful.
Everyone's going to see it.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to see it.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, Air 5s, Tristan. Nice one.
Happy. Smashing this year. We're 2.5 weeks in, halfway through January, and in terms of the goals we've been setting, we're absolutely, I don't want this episode or this intro to be just, us congratulate ourselves. It'd be a bit egotistical, but we genuinely have smashed the crap. Let's celebrate while we can, because there'll be a week or a month where we're like, no, we didn't do that. Nope. So let's enjoy it while we can.
Those will be equally as crushing as the euphoric the highs are at the moment. Nice. That's nice. I guess my parent thought is like this
afternoon. The horrible.
Go for it.
Sorry, talking over each other. I was going to say the horrible thing is actually the weather. And tomorrow I'm driving to Perth and Pitlochry, meant to be -7. That'll be interesting. I'm actually going to do a video or a vlog, not of me driving, obviously that'd be dangerous, but of my day. And so I'm keen to see what temperature it is when I get in the car, and before I set off.
Make sure you've got a full tank of fuel, a blanket, and a thermos flask if you've got one, just in case.
Yeah, I'll have thermos and some little snacks, warm jackets.
It was already
keeping me safe.
It was -3 when I got back tonight already.
Yeah,
so it's already cold.
It's cold in the house.
My parent says, before we get our guest on, part 2 cents was, I said this afternoon, I need to speak to the wife about all this travel I've got going on. I was rattling it off. It's like, it's only the second week in January, and look at all my travel. It was every month. Every month there was like trips.
Yeah.
Which is...
So have you got approval for Canada?
Well, yes, I think in theory, it was, it would be a shame if you didn't go.
Wow, what a considerate and caring wife. I've not met your wife, but
She's long suffering, Tristan. But no, I think what I'm taking away from that whole thing, the travel, is it is only the second week. It means that things are happening, exciting things are happening. The calls are exciting. People want to see what we're up to. People want to see what Pal's up to. But I guess, yeah, just mindful of the impact that it will have at home. And with that said, shall we segue into being our guest?
Yes. Why don't you do a little pre-intro for a guest, a little teaser?
Okay.
Tell us about our guest. Who have we got joining today?
Well, perfect for me to do it. So Fraser, I think he thinks I've got this like natural ability or some sort of skill where I can be like, no, this person do this, they do this, and this, and I met here, and here. So Fraser, I met RBS Incubator. I overheard him preparing his pitch for Lion's Den, and immediately subscribed to his product during the pitch. So when he came out from his pitch practice, he obviously checked his phone, knew the name, was like, came over and introduced himself. So Fraser is the founder of the Biscuit Baron. The Biscuit Baron sell a monthly subscription box of biscuits from around the world. If you are a biscuit lover, it is the subscription box for you. COVID obviously happened, fell out of touch a little bit, caught up with them at a Scottish Edge competition where Powerlife had a stand. Soon after that, became a logistics customer come client. That was towards the end of 2022, and have got to know him really, really well over 2023. And I guess, yeah, he's sort of part of the team with what we're doing for both of our businesses. Pal and MM, he's the logistics guru. And hopefully he's going to be part of some big things moving forward as well.
Yeah. I've obviously met Fraser once or twice now. I'm excited to hear more about his story, and because I'm sure there's lots of, from what I know about him, lots of untold things that he keeps maybe secret, but not secret, but, keeps himself. Well, cards close to his chest. But final thing before we get into the episode and meet Fraser, if you were to describe Fraser 3 words, what 3 words would you use?
Cool under pressure. And we'll hopefully get him to explain why, because I think it's really interesting.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Right. Let's get straight into it.
But here we are, joined by Fraser. Fraser, I've already done somewhat of an intro about you, but it'd be interesting to hear how you would describe yourself, please. Who are you? What do you do?
This is strange because I've not heard what you've got to say yet, so this could be... I could be bigging myself up better than you have, or worse than I have.
Nice.
My name's Fraser. I'm owner of the Biscuit Baron, but also offer fulfillment services to predominantly startup businesses, but businesses across e-commerce and a range of different kind of sectors and niches.
Amazing. Okay, yeah. To the point.
How would you describe yourself in 3 words without saying the Biscuit Baron?
Yeah, I am the Biscuit Baron, live and breathe it. I don't know. I genuinely do not know. That's probably the toughest question you'll ask. Ask me tonight is probably to describe myself in 3 words. I think I'll leave others to do that for me. Genuinely is a pretty good summary of people.
Oh, yeah.
So I think...
Park that one to the end of the episode.
Okay.
What was that?
As well. Mine was cool under pressure.
Park that one to the end of the episode.
Take that one.
So Fraser, what were some of your like early influences or inspirations getting into business?
Yeah, I think growing up, I grew up in a kind of small town. There wasn't much in terms of entrepreneurship. Most of the people who had their own business, it was family-run businesses that they took over. And a kind of gauge of success for someone from the Fraser and Galloway, that's where I grew up, was you went to university and you worked in big business. That was, or you worked for, you got a job in industry, whatever it was you decided to do at university. There wasn't really much of a career path. There wasn't much anything. Nothing was ever mentioned that you could set up your own business or you could do your own thing. Growing up, I think when I went to university, I moved to Stirling. I think initially it was kind of around that time. I always was working even while I was at university, but I kind of got the bug for wanting to do my own things, so various side hustles. I would do the odd buying and reselling even when I was a student to earn some extra money. And I think that kind of lit the fire in terms of I wanted to be my own person, or I wanted to be self-employed, or I wanted to be kind of control my own income. But I think from growing up, it's hard coming from a small place, because there is no real, entrepreneurship's not a thing that people mention. I think our school just got a kind of entrepreneur thing in the final year of my year at school. There was a kind of entrepreneur club. There was kind of business challenges that you got set in kind of 6th year. But apart from that, that was never a gateway for people. It was still very much of, you either left school at 4th year and went into a traineeship or an apprenticeship, or if you were clever enough, you stayed on to 6th year and then you went to university, and then that was your career. Kind of business and self-employed wasn't really an option unless you opened a trade or you had a trade. That was the only kind of business we knew.
That's really interesting. I personally hadn't reflected on that, but now that you're saying, like, who in secondary school did we know? Well, there was people that I knew whose parents owned businesses. So it always felt like, well, it would be possible because so-and-so's dad or mum was doing it. That's very interesting. Tristan?
Well, I'm just keen because there's been such, I guess, a big focus on being your own boss. What are you actually like as an employee?
Me as an employee, sorry, I caught up just slightly there.
Yeah. What are you like as an employee? Are you difficult to manage?
No, I think I was the opposite. I think I was the dream person that I would have loved, because I was keen to learn. I was like I really was a sponge around no matter who I worked with. I actually had I think probably this kind of shaped me into the person that I am now, but I had a little bit of success when I was younger, in terms of when I was working from the age of 11, and then as soon as I turned 18, it was like an opportunity arose in the kind of small convenience shop that I was working at to become a supervisor. So I was a supervisor in our convenience shop at the age of 18. I think I look back then and it was like, who gave the keys to who in the right mind would give the keys to a shop that's responsible for quite a decent turnover of the keys to the shop to an 18-year-old? It seems bonkers. But they did. And then from whilst I was at university, I was still working as a supervisor, and then I graduated and became manager role. So I think that was kind of proof of the kind of person that I was. But as an employee, I like to think I was the dream employee, because I was keen to learn. I didn't really, I wanted to learn more. I was always, and I use this analogy quite often with my employees now, but I like people that get the why, because I think employees, it's great having an employee that does as you say and does it by the book, but it's a lot easier to explain to someone if they get the why. And that's, so if you're doing a task, it's something as simple as understanding what the main output of why am I doing this, or am I just doing this, am I just clocking in to do a function and go away at the end of the day, do my time and move on. But I was always the one that got the why, or if I didn't, I asked why, so that I could learn, or then I think any task, then you're putting the real kind of effort into it. You're understanding the reason why you're actually doing this, and it's not just a case of, I'm just doing my bit. I'm a cog in the giant wheel kind of thing.
Perfect. I always, having worked in a variety of businesses, I think it's like really important on what drives a business, that people obviously get the why and have a bit of ambition to just learn or to know, to understand, and that ability to kind of think about how they can improve things, really, more than anything,
Yeah.
But I think depending on type of business, you also need those people that are just want to do a job. It might not drive the success, but they're just as critical. You need that diversity of the role, really, but everyone has a different value or role to add, depending on what they want in life, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah. I'm going to just jump straight into it. So what are some of the kind of struggles you faced? We kind of heard about some of your early success and some of your early influences, but
yeah, I think
tell us about some of the struggles or challenges.
No, I think in employed life, I think because I got given authority at a young age, I didn't know how to necessarily ask for why, or ask for help, or I think that was maybe a bit of I don't know whether it was an insecurity of being young. I didn't want to feel like I didn't know something, or I didn't need help. I was self-sufficient. My work hard attitude would get me through any struggles that I might have had. But I think looking back now, there were certainly times that, that I wish I'd put my hand up and said, guys, like, I'm struggling with this. I could do with a hand, but instead I would kind of persevere and try and get through it just from hard work alone. I don't think you can necessarily. You just need to know when that point is. And I think looking back now, and obviously hindsight's wonderful, but I think looking back now, there's certainly a couple of times where I wish I had said, like this is a bit too much. And I think one of the main ones was when I got given a pharmacy manager's job, after being a kind of supervisor in the area. I got given a pharmacy manager's role in an area that I didn't know. And the way that it worked was you had your regions for your pharmacy chain, and all the shops in one area knew each other. You would go to managers' forums. You would know everyone by personal name. If you had a problem, you would pick up the phone and you could phone the manager in the next shop, for example. But when I got given my first manager's role, it was in an area that I'd never worked in before. And to be honest, it was in the west. It was in the not the best part of Glasgow. And I was a young manager, and I was in amongst other managers from other shops that I didn't know. And I think my first weekend, I had a member of staff come in under the influence that I had to deal with. And, I was a young manager at that point with no one around me that I felt comfortable enough to reach out. And I felt like this was my moment that I had to kind of prove myself. And I think looking back now, that was something that I definitely could have or should have handled a little bit better. And that was the example. I was a little bit kind of raw and a bit kind of naive, and I thought I could maybe handle it, or I didn't need to ask for help because that was a sign of weakness. When on hindsight, looking back, it wasn't. And I generally don't think anyone would have thought that. But when you're in that motion and you're going through it then live, like, you don't think clearly as you probably would now.
Yeah, I think I've had similar experience. I'm sure most people, if they've had any sort of responsibility at a young age, I think majority would have had similar experiences, if not the same. And I can certainly relate to that. I know the way I look at it now is more like if I look back on it now and I was like doing differently, I wish I was more comfortable to ask for feedback. Like, it's not even like, in situations where you need direct help. It's like just being open and seeking feedback, because you have to learn by making mistakes, but you can learn so much from other people around you. I think when you're young, you don't appreciate the knowledge or the experience around you, and don't value it necessarily because you've got either filled with ambition or you're excited about what you're doing, kind of almost wrapped up in your own importance. You forget what's around you and maybe the bigger purpose or the why, like we've said already.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So how
over to you, Jezza?
So like the pharmacy career, going to uni, doing pharmacy studies. Why did you jump ship? What was the reason that you jumped ship to start up the Biscuit Baron?
I think it was a kind of burning desire. It was a little bit of I always wanted to be, like I said, self-employed. I always wanted to be kind of responsible for my own thing. Pharmacy is very strict and regimented in terms of process and in terms of what you can and can't do, especially when you work for a big chain. They've got standard operating procedures for a reason, and I totally agree with that. But there was the odd time where you think you could improve a process, or you think you want to change more. You would like to be able, you could see things better. And when you're working for a big business like that, they have to make sure that what works across every shop, but there's the odd wee nuances where obviously things would be different. And I think I would wanted to be able to make wider changes, and I always knew that was never going to be possible in pharmacy. So I think that was the kind of burning desire. I knew that I wasn't getting the freedom or the kind of free reign that I kind of needed or I wanted to make, and always had that burning desire to do something on my own. And then it was more a case of the right idea, the right kind of timing. I knew that I wanted to do something when I was still deemed young, or I still felt young. And And I think at the time, to be honest, I came out of university and my overheads were still pretty low. So I thought if there's a time to start a business, it's now. And I think we had just bought our house. In terms of, I didn't have to put myself as self-employed on the mortgage application. I'd already done that. I had already got the keys. So it was a case of our overheads from being a student was still pretty low. But we were pretty secure in terms of our. So at the time, that was the less risk or the less risk time to kind of do it. So between that and then there was pharmacy was going through changes at the time. I think there was a lot of change within the pharmacy chain that I worked for. So it kind of all came together in a kind of nice time. I thought, no, if I'm going to do it, this is now.
Why biscuits?
Biscuits it was actually a subscription box first. It was always going to be a subscription box. I think at the time my partner, Sophie, was getting like all these subscription boxes, glossy box, kind of makeup, ones delivered in the subscription box industry was booming in the States, and it was slowly coming to the UK. You could see there was like glossy box was doing extremely well. And then we thought, I quite liked the idea of a subscription box, the recurring revenue model, the kind of, you could create your own product every month. It wouldn't be flogging a dead horse in terms of you don't have to put all your thing into one product. It's just an idea and the product changes every month and you can kind of tweak and change as you go to find something that worked in the market. And then it was to try and find a product that we'd both all enjoy. And both me and my partner are quite foodies. We like our food. We like our snacks. So it was kind of narrowing down then what we kind of liked, what we thought the British public would like in terms of what we could offer. And biscuits was the one we settled on. It helped that, I'll be honest, it helped the biscuits are 0 rated for tax. So our sales didn't have any tax on them. So there was no nasty tax man to come along and take some iron later on. So
he was at my door this afternoon, Tristan, to tell you after. Yeah, man.
That was so that biscuits was brought about because that was the one that had the nice little tax advantage to it as well.
And like those first few subscribers, like at what point were you and Sophie like, we've clearly got something that's working here after the sort of friends and family and the initial launch?
Yeah, I think it wasn't necessarily when the numbers started coming through or we saw a boost in terms of sales. It was more when the feedback started coming in, when we got someone saying they'd enjoyed our box or they bought it for their son. And it was actually the real stories that we heard from them initial customers. So I think it was the first time when we started to get the reviews come in, or it was someone, I think quite early on, probably one of our first 20 subscribers happened to have a small YouTube channel. And it was a case of suddenly this person was unboxing. We didn't even think about influencers at this point. But this person had a YouTube channel, happened to subscribe. And then all of a sudden it was seeing your product on YouTube. And it was like, this is it. We've made it. We're on YouTube. So probably how naive we were at that time in terms of how easy it was to be seen on a platform like that. But I think that was the kind of key point. It was like, it doesn't really matter if you kind of goes anywhere or not. You know fine well you're making not a difference in terms of it's not a product that's changing lives, but in terms of in that happiness, you're giving someone something that they're felt they went out of their way to post positive feedback about. And just as a side point, Sophie, my partner, was a psychology graduate, and she did a study into the kind of, if you have a bad experience, you can have one experience, go on the negative bias of leaving negative reviews, but actually to have a positive review, it takes a lot for someone to go out of their way to leave a positive review, especially when it's not garnered in terms of we've never sent out an email to say, go and leave us a positive review on this. This is someone had received our product and then naturally went out of their way to leave feedback somewhere. So, that it must have been a good experience for them to have gone out and done that. And I think that was a key thing that really thought, that people are enjoying it. It's worth continuing to do.
Mm-hmm. I guess I was saying to Tristan, first I heard of the Biscuit Baron was you practicing your Dragon's Den pitch. What was that experience?
That was a weird one. So that actually came about pretty early on into doing the Biscuit Baron. And it's funny, you look at moments and you think, would we be standing here having this conversation just now if certain things hadn't happened along the way? And I look back and I think we got an invitation to an award final for, I think it was Startup Online Business of the Year or something like that. And we happened to win it. And we got a little bit of press coverage out of it. And I think we were in, can't remember what paper it was now, but I think we got a little bit of press coverage from it. And it just so happened that one of the researchers from the Dragon's Den, or for the BBC, that was working on the Dragon's Den was Scottish, and he had a bit of a preference to look for Scottish businesses. And it just so happened, again, you're looking at random moments. But the researcher from Dragon's Den was visiting his parents in Glasgow, and he happened to pick up their paper, and he was looking through the business awards section, and he saw the Biscuit Baron, and he thought, that might play well on the TV. So he reached out to us. It's always that thing, did we apply? We never filled in an application form. They do reach out to brands and businesses that they come across. And it's that way, you've just jacked in your job. You're full-time employed, running the business. And I think I was even sat where I'm sitting right now in our home office, and my phone rang, and it was an odd number. And generally, you know me, I'll not pick up
That's all the phone calls. I take all of them. You never know who's on the end of it.
Well, I patched this call. I passed this private number, and they left a voicemail. And I thought, what the hell is this? Listen to the voicemail, and it's, "Hi, we are Dragon's Den researcher. We're keen to have you on the show." And I thought, yeah, right. This is one of my mates on the wind up, put the phone down, thinking, I've just started a business. That's what they find. That's the kind of humour that some of my friends would have. So genuinely thought it was a wind up. And then they sent an email, and it had the official BBC signature at the bottom. And I was like, this actually might be something. And again, the whole application, it was a case of they put various hurdles in front of you in terms of there's a screen test you've got to do, or at least this was the process when we did it. It was there was a screen test in Manchester with an interview. There was then a pitch. They then went through your whole paperwork. There was a whole legal check to make sure there was nothing that was going to make the BBC look bad. And then there was a case of it goes to a panel and an editor, I think it is, of the show. And it's a case of they'll give you you'll hear from them. And it was a case of it's always 2 weeks. It's always 2 weeks. The next step was 2 weeks. And I remember I was in the RBS Accelerator office when I got an email to say, hey, just to let you know that you're pitching in the Dragon's Den on 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time or something like that. Let us know how many people will be travelling, what hotel requirements you need, and if you get any allergies for your meal. And it was literally as simple as that. It was a case of we thought there'd be a hurdle come in at some point, something that came and said, nah, it's not going to happen. But it never, we just kept getting through. So yeah, I think the first time you heard us was when, and the thing is, we took the whole secrecy to heart. They're like, you can't tell anyone, you're not allowed to inform anyone you're on the show. So we were dead secretive, never told anyone apart from our business advisor at the Royal Bank. And that was us practicing the pitch for the first time in front of her. And she brought down one of our colleagues from commercial banking, came down, and you just happened to be in the hub at the same time. And eavesdropping.
It's like, what's going on here? Yeah, nice. I'll give it one more question, and I'm firing it back to you, Tristan. Picking packers. So obviously, Biscuit Baron going great guns. How come the diversification and fulfillment more generally?
Yeah, I think to be honest, we grew quite quickly during COVID. I think everyone was stuck at home with nothing to do, so everyone was online shopping. So we grew exponentially during COVID, so much so that we were kind of faced with a decision whether we went to a fulfillment centre ourselves or whether we took the overheads and opened our own warehouse and did it ourselves in-house. And I think at the time I reached out, there was a lot of e-com fulfillment companies who didn't have space because they were growing during COVID. They were doing a lot more. They didn't want to take on new clients, or the ones that did. Their pricing model just didn't work for us in terms of how that worked with our profit margin with our boxes and stuff. So, and I felt like it was a little bit aimed against small businesses. Some of their pricing, they were only really interested in those big contracts. So we did the numbers, and we thought we would actually be better off opening our own warehouse. So we did that. We opened our own warehouse. We're fulfilling our own items, and more or less to protect ourselves against, our business failing or numbers dropping or whatever it was. We decided to offer fulfillment services because we had the warehouse and we had the space. We decided to offer fulfillment services to other kind of brands who were seeing growth during COVID as well, as a way to help us with the overheads of the rent and the rates and the electricity and the heating and staffing, but also to kind of like share the risk across the new warehouse, but also to kind of offer a service that I thought was lacking because there was nothing out there for us at the time, and certainly we found that other businesses at the time didn't know that our services existed, or couldn't find one that would entertain them due to their volumes that they were doing at the time. So we had the warehouse space, we had the staff capable of packing orders, so we thought we might as well.
Class. Tristan.
Wow. How did you go about getting customers initially? Was it an easy process? Did you just reach out to companies you knew, or did you?
Yeah, it's like companies we knew. To be honest, we were in the. We'd done a little bit of purely from our own kind of growth for our own business. We'd been a part of Facebook groups and kind of business networking stuff for a while, and we'd been on a few of the pages, and we knew that there was people who were looking for the best way to ship parcels. There was constantly questions in Facebook groups that was like, who do you ship with? What's their rates for this size parcel and things like this? So that we knew that there was a kind of demand. And I think initially as well, there was a lot of kind of local people who we'd shared the RBS accelerator space with, or there was people in our network who we knew had e-commerce businesses as well. So the initial kind of customers were definitely within our circle. And then new clients since then have either came on through the same kind of Facebook groups and business posts, or there's been referrals from our current clients.
Perfect. What would you describe as your greatest achievement or success so far?
Old.
I think it's probably surviving this Black Friday period, as Jeremy was in our way and witnessed it.
So we all survived that, Fraser.
Genuinely think that was our first Black Friday where we've had as many orders as we've had in terms of, and Black Friday running into Christmas, so the kind of 6 weeks from Black Friday into Christmas, because that was our first Christmas where we've had clients with significant volume. It's the first time we've had the Biscuit Baron doing a decent number of boxes, because we put a kind of focus on commercial or B2B sales for this Christmas period. So we had a significant number of them. So generally putting the processes in place and having the staffing and the kind of wherewithal to be able to get through this Black Friday to Christmas period is definitely probably my biggest achievement, or at least it's still freshest in my memory right now.
You'll still be recovering from that, no?
No.
Shit, wow.
That is
exhausting,
a great achievement, and a very, very big humble brag as well.
I think to be
Your
fair,
greatest achievement is just being far too busy and coping with it all. But
I think it was a case. I think, well, funnily enough, you say that though. It was a case of I was moaning at one point in terms of we were busy and how we were going to cope. And actually, one of our clients, I think Jeremy, was in our warehouse on this day. One of our other clients was in the warehouse, and he was like, billable income, and that's all he kept saying was like, because I was moaning we were too busy, and he was like, think about it, it's billable income, and it was his billable income, funnily enough, that we were doing. Yeah, I can't really complain.
What would you do differently for the next? Sorry, Tristan.
Sorry, Jeremy. I was still running with the success.
So yeah, how are we going to make an even bigger success next year, Fraser? What we do different?
I think there's definitely learnings from it in terms of there's certain things I would do again. There's things that we know that definitely worked. I think, to be honest, when our backs were against the wall in terms of, I know what we're capable of. There was certainly the odd day, and I think unfortunately they were probably the odd day where, everything was seamless in terms of we looked at how many orders we could get out and we could handle during one of our busiest days. So I think we just need to have more of them. And there's certain things we can do that worked on that day in terms of the way the staffing was broken up, in terms of how many pickers, how many packers, how many people were doing certain functions within the warehouse. And I think there's certain things that we can do leading into Black Friday and the busy period that we could have done better in terms of, even if it's just space allocation, just to have room. My partner Sophie's the biggest advocate of just having space, and I'm not the kind of person that if space is just space, it's pointless. It has to have a function. It has to do something. But in terms of just having that blowout space where we could have had space to organise stuff that wouldn't necessarily have been quicker or better or whatever, but actually just for sanity's sake, just be able to put something to the side and forget about it for a bit. We didn't have, so it always felt like it was a bit on top of you.
I want to ask you, purely because it's something I've reflected on, I guess, recently, or as you get older, but what do you I guess define as success, or what do you view as success, and has it changed, over time from when you were maybe younger?
Yeah, I think when you're young and naive, it's money. Well, at least for me, it was always a case of success is how much money you've got in your bank account, and that was one of the motivation of being self-employed. My idea was, if I can control the business decisions, I can make a business that can make more money, and that was the be all and end all. But I think it sounds a bit soppy now, but I generally think that kind of changed a little bit during COVID, because this is still something I say that I struggle with now, but we did well out of COVID. And I mean, that's a pandemic that impacted so many people's lives and changed people's lives, and people lost their lives, but yet we did well out of it. And I struggled to say that because it felt like you were dirty or you were bad saying you benefited from a pandemic. It felt like you were, to name names or not to name names, but the Conservative Party and their donations and where contracts were going during COVID and things, you felt like you were in amongst that mix because you were benefiting from a pandemic. But someone pointed out to me, it was a change of buyers' behaviour. You just happened to be in an area or in a sector that benefited from it. But actually looking at that kind of time when we were shipping people's boxes out to people, and this is just obviously for the Biscuit Baron, this is not even thinking about success for the pick and packer side of things, but for the Biscuit Baron, we were sending people's boxes out, and we got these sound modules that you can record voices onto. So we were recording personal sentiments on these voice recorders, so that when people got their box and opened it, it spoke the person's voice. So it was a gift message that played their voice. And what we didn't really realised the impact of that during COVID, because there was people who were hearing their grandkids' voice for the first time because they hadn't seen them during COVID, because the grandparent was isolating and they hadn't met their grandchildren yet physically. And they might have seen them on FaceTime or whatever, but actually having that sentiment of, albeit beside biscuits, that then they could enjoy. There was these gift notes that suddenly you were having a bigger impact than you realised than just sending biscuits through the post. And then there was other ones, so there was families who would get together on a Friday night. They would all buy a subscription on the Friday that it delivered. They would all have a family Zoom. They'd put themselves up on their tellies and they would all do a biscuit like taste along and stuff. And I was like, suddenly it's not necessarily money motivated, but you're actually making a difference to these people. Like, these are people who are giving you feedback, and it's real kind of tangible stuff over, it's nice stuff to hear it. And it kind of changed your focus that, not everything's money motivated. There's nice things, there's nice things about having a business as well. And I think they're worth their weight in the money as well.
That's really interesting, Fraser, because the biscuit bar, I was a subscriber for a long time. We're on a health kick though, so we're not eating biscuits the whole Fraser. But I mean, in my head, I get, it's a bit like that with Pal, where I'm so focused on the sales, I forget the impact. With the Biscuit Baron, I just see them as pallets of biscuits in the warehouse.
Yep.
Forget that it is people having nice moments with their family.
Yep.
Especially
making memories.
Yeah, I was going to say, COVID was the resetter on that. I think it was a case of, for us, it was pallets and biscuit, and it was a business, and we provided a product, and it was a product at that time, and people bought it. But actually, it became a service, because it became that family activity that they could do when COVID took so much away from everyone. This was the one thing that we provided. It certainly wasn't a product. It was the family get together on the Friday night, or it was the meeting your grandson or granddaughter, hearing their voice, or whatever it was. It was that touch point that they've kept on. And there's a lot of people who have got subscriptions, and there are people who have left us since COVID, who have left messages, and it's been a case of, we'll always be thankful for what you gave us during that time, because we don't need 3 boxes amongst the family now, but we did at the time because we were in 3 different locations and couldn't see each other.
Oh, you should have them printed on the wall in the warehouse.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was the feedback was coming in. Again, I just see lots of boxes in the warehouse that we're climbing over. Yeah, that's really cool. What qualities, so this leads on to the next one, right? So what qualities or habits do you think contributed to your success, Fraser? Bearing in mind that when Tristan asked me what 3 words best described you, I said cool under pressure, and hopefully we'll find out why.
Yeah, I don't think I'm someone that gets stressed very much. I don't think stress helps. I think I use it as a motivation. I like being busy, so I think I'm quite comfortable around when there is that noise going on. I can quite kind of focus and clear. And I suppose I never ever knew why, but we've just found out recently what this might be. But Sophie recently was watching a TikTok, and it was one of these things. She saw a TikTok and she was like, "Do you know that there's people that don't have an internal voice?" And I was like, "That's weird." And then she's like, "I know. Can you imagine not being able to have thoughts?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's strange." Going along with it, and I was like agreeing with it. And then she said something else, or they don't see pictures in their head. And I was like, "Wait, what?" And she's like, "Yeah, I mean, they don't visualize, they don't see pictures in their head." And I was like, "I don't have pictures in my head." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, I don't have pictures in my head." And then she was like, "Oh, well, do you have an internal voice?" And I was like, "Well, what do you mean an internal voice?" Like, I have thoughts. And she was like, "Do you have a voice?" And I was like, "I can't hear myself." And then she's like, "What?" As if this was the strangest thing in the world. And I was like, "I can't hear, I don't have a voice in I can't hear myself." And then I was like, "Can you?" She's like, "Yeah, this is what this TikTok is." And it turns out this is this aphantasia. And there's like a kind of a spectrum on where you are between people who have no internal thought, can't think for themselves, are very, very on one side. And then there's the people who are dead creative and see pictures vividly and have wild dreams and stuff. Well, I don't have that. And I don't have a voice in my head that I can have thoughts, and I can have private thoughts in my own head, but I don't hear them as a voice. And I don't really see pictures. Any pictures that I do see are from a memory, so I can remember how something looks by memory, but I can't think of something new. And it was only really when I was thinking about it, I was like, yeah, I don't dream. Or at least I just thought I don't remember my dreams, but actually I don't dream at all. That must be like, I just thought it was a case of I didn't remember them. And the odd time I thought I've had a dream, it's not really, it's been a case of like I've kind of been just half awake and I've been thinking about something. You're in that kind of semi-awake state. But I just thought that was the norm. I didn't know I was any different.
I think it's wild. It's a superpower. It is a superpower. Tristan, do you have any questions before I dive into this thing?
I guess it's, maybe you can't answer, but you don't know any different. But do you think it's a positive or a negative thing?
I think
Jeremy calls it a superpower.
Yeah, I think because I don't know any different, to me, I've got to look at the benefits of it. And I think it helped me understand in terms of why I kind of enjoy that stress, or I kind of thrive off of that thing, because I can quite clearly see a plan. And I think for my line of work, maybe why I went into this line of work, but I like processes. I like putting plans in place. I like process or job-driven type things. So I think that's helped. I think the flip side of that is there's certain things that I struggle with, and I think I've put it down to this now, and any of my staff members will tell you this, that if I am trying to explain something, or if I show someone something, I have to explain it as I would do it or as I would say it. So quite often I have to like draw it out in terms of what physically on a picture. And I've realised now that's probably because I can't form that picture in my head. So, for example, if I'm talking you through a process, I'd be like, step 1 goes into step B, which goes into step 3, step C, step D, whatever it is. For that, I would want to sit beside the person I'm explaining that to and actually draw the step 1, step 2 of how I think obviously other people would visualize that in their head and use in their head to talk through it. I don't have that. So, yeah, any of my staff members will tell you anytime we're trying to explain something, like, yeah, Fraser always draws it on a bit of paper.
I think it's amazing. So Tristan, like we did the tests when obviously the next day Fraser came in and was like, this TikTok with Sophie showed us. And the test is like, if you were to close your eyes, for instance, and I was to say, yeah, can you imagine yourself on a beach? Can you picture the beach? Well, I'm assuming you probably can, because this thing's relatively rare. And if I say, yeah, can you imagine a bird flying across the sky? And can you now picture the cliffs? And imagine the birds wearing a pair of purple wellies. Like there will come a point where it becomes hard for you to continue to construct that picture in your head. Fraser can't even get himself on the beach. So when it comes to things like, and this is why for me, the beauty of working with Fraser on the logistics proper stressed me out before Fraser kindly started to help. The head of my voice is like, what if we're late on this order? That customer's going to be really annoyed. What's the customer going to say? What if the logistics come? Fraser is very matter of fact. The logistics update is saying this, therefore this is the email that needs to be sent. There's no, and I'm speaking on your behalf a little bit, Fraser, but it's what I've observed, which I think is a superpower. Just like, yeah, cool under pressure, because you've not got that voice in your head creating these scenarios that are never going to happen.
Yeah, there's no, the kind of, I suppose the only doubt I ever have is one that comes in. It's not an unrealistic doubt. It's not one just because you're having a bad day, in terms of people will not feel on form today, therefore that impacts their mood and impacts the likelihood of a situation arising. And it's that you imagine the worst case, or you think about the worst case is more likely to happen. For me, I don't have that, because I don't have that imagination to think like that. It's a case of, this is the likelihood. I saw someone describe it as everything could be a percentage game, in terms of, well, your delivery today is saying that it's reached the thing. That means that 75% likelihood it'll go out. Therefore, I'm going down that path. There's no this, yeah, but what if? That's where I'm going.
I think it's amazing. Yeah. I think it's class. But yes. So now that we understand why you're cool under pressure, what advice would you give to someone starting out in your field, just starting out? What would that advice be, Fraser?
In entrepreneurship overall, or in specific to this business?
Let's do entrepreneurship first.
I think it's have that conviction to go for it. I think my thing's always been risk it. We've always had that phrase, would risk it for a chocolate biscuit. We used to use that as was that Tiny Tempah song? Risk it for a chocolate biscuit. We used to use that as our motto when we were starting out, because it was a case of, when I left the pharmacy, we took a risk to go full time with the Biscuit Baron. But the way that I saw it was, if in a year's time, or if in 6 months' time, the Biscuit Baron doesn't exist and it's a flop, and I have to go back with my hands in my hat, begging for a job somewhere, my opinion of it is that my CV is richer for having been a self-employed person for that period. Doesn't matter whether it was 6 months or a year, because you know fine well that you've had to have built a website in that time. You'll have bootstrapped it from the start. You'll have had to have learned about import regulations, in our case, for biscuits, and the tax status of biscuits, and all these kind of things. And the drive that I had to be self-employed, in terms of, there was no alarm clock every morning. You just had to get up whenever you wanted to get up. And it was a case of, well, that drive, that learning, that behaviour, my CV is richer for it. So therefore, my opinion was that if it was a flop in 6 years' time, I could probably apply for a better job than what I was doing beforehand. So there was that risk. Go for it. What's the worst that can happen? Your CV is better. And I think as long as you know that line, in terms of, you're not remortgaging the house, you're not spending the kids' college fund, you're not refinancing your car, taking financial risks that could have a long-term impact. It's know where your limits are. But if you've got a nest egg that's doing nothing, and you've always had a dream of being self-employed, and you think that if worst came to the worst and that went away and you had to go back, would you be richer for the experience? Then go for it. Like, I think people can get pulled back by, especially parents or other people who are like, oh no, just do the status quo, go to university, get the degree, get the job, be safe, pay into your pension, and we don't even know if our pensions are going to be here by the time we reach pension age. So like have something around you that, you can, you've got some kind of legs in something or something that you enjoy. And, there's that old adage to, do something you enjoy, you never work a day in your life type thing. But to be like cheesy on that, there is, if you enjoy your job, then you're much happier in terms of your personal life and whatnot. So yeah, go for it. Take the risk.
Love it. Tristan?
I guess to kind of close things off, what are some future plans or projects you're working on? Is there anything you can share with us about what the future looks like for the Biscuit Baron?
Yeah, I think coming into the kind of Christmas period, we were a little bit, we didn't really know where we sat. We were in a bit of a kind of crossroads in terms of the Biscuit Baron was doing one thing and the fulfillment side of thing was doing another. We had we've got a bit of a kind of decision to make in terms of what we're going to do. I mean, to speak openly, we had a good Christmas period. We made a decent amount of money. Clients seem happy. But it was a case of, do we go again or do we stick where we are and just kind of be happy with where we are? So that kind of growth ambition, the burning ambition is like, do we put that foot to the gas and go again and grow again? That becomes, do we need a new, bigger warehouse? What does the hiring decision of that look like? And we've started to have some kind of early conversations on that with some of our kind of key partners and stakeholders and stuff, and seeing how that would work in terms of if we did go again and we did look to that next step in terms of a bigger warehouse, which 3 years ago looked crazy to think that we would be in a warehouse.
At the start of the year, the one that we are in just now was empty. Now it's bursting at the seams.
Yeah, I've got a before and after picture in the space of a year that's quite interesting to look back on. So yeah, where will we be in a year's time? Hopefully we've filled out that next warehouse. That's the dream.
The Biscuit Baron squared.
Well, we're into, this will be 3.0. So this will be version 3. Well, including our home, we're shipping boxes out of our house to start off with, the spare bedroom and the living room, and we're packing boxes there to start off with. This would be warehouse number 4, including it.
Nice. Wow. Do you miss the days of packing boxes?
I kind of do, because it was the nuts and bolts. It was the grind to start off with, and it's quite nice. But saying that, the stage we're at now and how efficient we are with it is, I wouldn't swap it for the world.
Nice. So I guess, yeah, final thoughts or messages for our listeners, Fraser.
Yeah, harper back to that. Take a risk if you're in that. If you've got that burning desire to be your own person, or you kind of want to start your own business, go for it. Take that risk. You've only got one life. Do what you want with it. And if it happens to be an e-commerce product, then you know where to come to for any fulfillment advice.
What's the website, Fraser?
www.thepickandpackers.co.uk.
Amazing. And I almost forgot. I don't think you would have forgotten, Tristan, but I'll jump in with it. Favorite business buzzword, Fraser? Or phrase?
Accountability.
Yeah. How come? Why accountability, Fraser?
I think as a kind of young manager starting out, when I wasn't self-employed, when I was working in the pharmacy or the convenience store, that was something that was always big. You had your tasks, you had what you need to do, be accountable for it. But also then, as you're self-employed, you're accountable for various things, whether it's your business or your family life or the mortgage payments. So I think accountability is a big thing, knowing what you're accountable for. And also that's the biggest thing when we then hire staff. It's what are they accountable for? And as long as you're managing what's expected of you, then everyone's happier. Everyone can hit business goals, personal goals. So yeah, accountability is a big one for me.
Nice.
I agree. A big fan of accountability. Good.
Brilliant.
Well, thank you so much, Fraser. It's been enlightening. I've also only met you a couple of times, so it's been great to hear a bit more about your journey. And thank you much for giving your time. For anyone listening, you can obviously get the links to Fraser's multiple businesses, social media links in the comments. And we look forward to seeing you and sharing another journey with you in the next episode.
Closing it out, Tristan.
Yeah, wowee. What a man. That was really cool.
What's the link?
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting. And like hearing it from his perspective, obviously, but it was interesting how big a conviction he has for taking risks. I mean, I really like it and got a lot of respect for it, but it's not your usual. I would overthink everything, and I'd like to think I'm quite pro-risk. I think we wouldn't be doing what we're doing if we weren't, but it was interesting to hear it from his perspective.
Calculated risks. I enjoy...
Yeah, cool under pressure, to be honest.
I was about to say, I enjoy Fraser's chat about not getting stressed. Oh my goodness. Yeah, not letting that inner voice get to you, not letting those inner pictures mess with your mind. Breaking it down into probabilities and stats. What is the most likely outcome? It's not likely to be the worst, but that's where your mind often goes to. Yeah. And of course, the conversation after the fact has taken us to 10 to 11. The conversation.
Yeah, that was a long conversation. I wonder whether the conversation after the recording was longer than the actual podcast.
I think it very well might have been. Yeah. You'd see it in my eyes.
Yeah.
They're red and bloodshot.
Yeah. Watch this space. Lots of cool things happening. And I guess a little teaser for the next guest we'll have on. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but it is my turn to bring one of my pals on the show, so that's going to be fun. From the world of hospitality and hotels.
Can't wait.
Questions ready, special questions about that. But thank you very much to everyone who's listening. It's been a pleasure, Jeremy, as always. And we look forward to the next episode. Catch you guys later.
See ya.